Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Oh, my seahorse is backwards. There he goes. All right. Hey, oh, Holly's got a seahorse cup
I
too.
do. I had to hold the cup backwards so you could see it.
And
There's one on the other side.
what are you sipping on, Holly?
This is hot apple cider, and I put a little vodka in it for for tonight.
My girl, that's my girl. All right. Ooh, I'm all crazy. Sorry, guys.
Oh,
Um,
I forgot my water.
anyhow,
I
you
was
got your
drinking
water ready.
maple syrup, and then so I didn't want to have the water here until the maple syrup flavor kind of dissipated.
I got
I
you.
can't eat
Okay.
maple walnut or maple ice cream or anything like that, but I can drink maple syrup.
Yum.
Hey, all
I
right.
love maple syrup.
Me too.
We're
I
gonna
am.
use it on our turkey tomorrow, actually.
It's
I
the
want to
most
hear about
expensive
that.
drink I
Wait,
ever
wait,
drink.
wait. Actually, let's hear about that first. Maple syrup on a turkey? Tell me about that real
Yeah, you
quick.
mix it. Actually, it's mixed with orange juice, and the turkey's gonna have bacon on it.
Oh,
And
all
yeah, and it's
things that
yeah,
are
and then I'm making like an orange marmalade glaze to go on
got
it too.
nice.
I'll come over and eat the bacon. You can have the turkey.
Speaking of which, everybody, happy Thanksgiving to anybody that watches this today or tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving. I am sipping on some Pinot Noir. I changed it up tonight, but I do have my little seahorse glass. And again, guys, I hand painted that based on a picture of my actual seahorse. The light is making his crown look crazy, but
Very
that's
pretty.
all right. Tonight we have Sofie with us. You've seen Sofie before. Sofie dealt with Ray. Ray gave her a bunch of seahorse advice, sold her a tank, or gave her however it worked, and she has now set up for seahorses. And if you watched it, or if you saw the post that I made, basically I'm really excited because it looks like she's doing macros too, and we see the tank behind her. So, Sofie, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Again, I want to just how old are you, Sofie?
I'm 14.
14 years old, keeping seahorses. This is awesome. I just love it so much. All right, so let's start
Now,
from the
now
beginning.
ask her about all the things that she has on her plate
Well,
besides the seahorses.
let's start at the beginning. Okay, we'll start with that. What else do you have on your plate, Miss Sofie, besides the seahorses?
I mean, I always have school. I do dance as well. I'm going to do some riding at one point. But yeah, I'm finding time to keep at the seahorses. Um, for
What made
now, I've found enough time. But yeah.
what made you want to keep seahorses? I know we've talked about this before, but
So I really actually wanted a freshwater aquarium at the start. Uh, And then I watched a movie about like the disappearing reefs. That kind of made me want to get into getting like a saltwater tank, but I didn't want just like a regular saltwater tank. I wanted it to have something extra. Um,
yes.
I mean, now I kind of left from the coral idea, but I found an interesting animal.
So you said you wanted like the whole start was because the disappearing reefs, and you wanted to get involved with coral, but then you found seahorses, and you were of course mesmerized because they're so amazing. But my point is, like, what made you decide, okay, maybe I don't want to do seahorses and coral in the same tank?
So actually, in here, I do have a Kenya tree. So I do have like one
Stop.
or two corals in here. Um, but I mean, I just found it kind of hard to find a lot of corals that actually worked well with the seahorses. Um, and that you guys especially said that it was harder to keep them together, right? But yeah, so I just kind of left the corals a little behind, and instead I put some extra macroalgae.
So we're gonna talk more about the tank, absolutely. But just for anybody watching, obviously I made the advertisement that this was for new seahorse keepers because Sofie is a new seahorse keeper and she had Ray as a guide, so she had it made. But basically what we've told her in the past, and we tell everybody, is you can really do whatever you want, in your tank. You can do whatever you want in your tank. But if you want to keep your seahorses healthy and safe, it's recommended that you keep them under 74 degrees. And one of the main reasons that we say like SPS and like the harder to keep corals that they're not recommended with seahorses is because number one, the seahorses need their own attention, right? And then if you have really expensive SPS coral, they need their own attention. They need their own foods, they need their own everything, but also it's temperature, right? Because we recommend keeping seahorses underneath 74 degrees, and most SPS and those harder coral need 78, and up. So did I miss anything, guys, when I was explaining that, or did I?
No. And by the way, the tank looks beautiful. I can see it.
I know.
in the
I want to
background.
thank.
Some corals too do not do well with seahorses because of the dirty water that seahorses provide.
Right.
That's kind of why I went for like easy ones that
Yeah.
will be okay with basically anything.
So Sofie wanted coral. She wanted seahorses because she met Ray, and of course Ray convinced her. But so the coral that you have, you said, what did you have? Softies, I know, but what were they called?
I have a Kenya tree, and then I have some zoas and a gorgonian.
Yes, perfect. I always have gorgonians in my seahorse tanks because they're beautiful. They have the polyps like an SPS, right? Not exactly, but kinda. And it depends on the species that you get, but they're amazing. And the seahorses love them. They hitch to them like crazy. Sophie will tell us in a minute, I'm sure. And the softies too. One of my first fry tanks, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know to keep it pure and all that crap. And so I basically had softies in my fry tank, and I raised 3 out of hundreds. But my point being, softies work in a seahorse tank absolutely because they can handle the temperature, they can handle, the dirty water. They love it, and they grow. And then also, you said you have macros, right? I'm the macro girl. I love that you have macros. What macros did you get?
So I have Dragon's Breath, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Dragon's, I've heard several names. And then the second one, I actually do not know what it's called. It's the green one with little dots. I got that one from the person that gave me my seahorses.
Ah.
And that one has been growing like crazy.
And did you turn back on your phone? Did I miss it or no?
Yeah, it says that it's in. It's kind of having some difficulties and see, it just left again.
Okay. All right. Because I wanted to make sure it wasn't me. She's trying to show us detailed, up close footage, but, technical stuff, you guys, Here we go. I just heard it, but I don't see it. There we go. Nope. It's gone again. Oh, no. Hang on.
It's trying.
It's trying. Here we go. All right. I think we've got it. Go ahead and see if you can. Again, guys, we're playing with this, so give us a minute. But go ahead and see if you can try to, turn it around and show us. And I don't know how to make it big, though, unfortunately. Here we go.
I think.
There we go.
There we go.
There's one of. You can't see it very well.
There's one. I see.
I'm looking at the macros, Holly. Sorry. But no, I do see it is a clerpa. It's a good clerpa. Like it's not the Mexican or anything that grows crazy. That's one of the ones that I use too. So I love your green. It will do you well in that tank. And then go ahead and show us just a little bit of the seahorses. Like show us what's going on in the tank. They look so active.
I
Yeah,
saw one look like it was trying to get out earlier.
I think they're expecting food right now.
I thought so. They were acting like it. He was going to jump out the tank and go get it himself, looked like.
Well, and you guys see that this seahorse right here, this is why the hitches mean so much. Like they don't have arms. Their tail is it. So they hitch and that's their security. And now he's like, wait, are you filming me? Do you have food? But is this a girl or a boy? I didn't even look.
This is the boy.
Oh yeah. See?
Yeah, he's a little boy.
And oh, look at you.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, look at me. Oh, you got some good seahorses, Sofie.
He says, show me some food, lady.
They have very like specific feeding times, so they know.
They know,
I'm
they
around.
do. Yeah. He's like, you're sitting right here. Why aren't you putting the food in?
And she's showing a perfect example. This is a seahorse dancing.
That's the food dance, if I ever saw one.
Perfect. And what do we got in the back corner, Sofie? Because I want to see more of the seahorses, but what's the equipment in the back corner?
So over here, I have a lot of hitches. These are all hitches from Ray.
Yes.
Then there's like the softer hitches back in the corner where the female is.
Okay.
You can see her.
I can see her.
Then there's this hitch over here, which is like a hard one. There's another hard one in the back with more macroalgae back there.
Love it.
And then, yeah, obviously there's like the big rock structure in the middle.
And so what equipment do we have on the tank? Or actually, before we go to that, show us what you want to show us in the tank. Oh, look at her. Aww. She's like, wait, is there food?
Yeah.
I don't want to come out. I don't want to be on your camera, but if there's food. Yeah. How many did you get, Sofie?
Pardon?
How many seahorses did you get?
Only 2.
So it's just the 2 of them. Oh my gosh. And they had this lovely heaven to live in. Ah, she's like, okay. Oh no, is that her?
That's the male.
That's the male in the front. The female's in back. There she
Yeah,
is.
the female's back there.
Okay. So it's the male peeking out saying, where's the food? And she's like,
He's
I'm not coming out until I see the food. Okay, gotcha.
He's the designated dancer of the tank.
Which, Holly, do you find that funny?
Yes, because that's how it is in my tank. Sadie's the designated dancer in my tank.
Yeah. Look at this boy. He's like, nope.
Oh yeah, he like I said, he looks like he's gonna come out. He'll come get it himself if you don't give it to him.
This is, guys, if anybody new is thinking about keeping seahorses, this is exactly like what you can expect. They communicate with you. And he's like, all right, she's not feeding me. I'm done with you. But they communicate with you and they'll come up and dance for you and they'll say, give me food.
Yeah, they try to get your attention. If they see you across the room, they'll go dance like that in the front to get your attention and say, hey, come feed me.
So great, Sofie. So tell us a little bit. And what I meant to ask, oh, we can turn that off. All good. Let me figure, you didn't. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that was accident.
No, you're fine. I was going to ask, I see that this is a return in the back. If you can, you probably don't see the arrow I'm pointing to. Above the seahorse, that's a return. What goes down? Is that behind the tank? Is that in the tank?
It's behind here. Okay. I'm going to disappoint the entire seahorse community and tell you that I do have a canister filter.
Nope.
That's okay. All right. That's how I started too.
Yes.
It's just that like I didn't really know about the sumps.
Yes.
when I started, and I started this like way before I found Ray.
Yes.
So like my other tank is beside this one. That one's gonna be for the babies actually. But yeah, this one has a canister filter.
Okay, so we're looking at a canister filter return, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So is that so basically we've got rock, we've got macro, we've got canister filter running this tank.
Yeah.
And then listen, I'm going to turn this off so that I can publicly admit I went to Italy and I forgot to send her my skimmer. So when I send you the skimmer this week, it's still sitting here ready to ship to you, and I just never got it done. So when I send you the skimmer, do you like? It's not a must, right? A canister filter is fine. But what I found when I set up my first Seahorse tank, I had it overcrowded. I had, no sump. I had hang on back filter. And then I was like, oh, this isn't working. All of a sudden I'm getting dinos. I'm getting all these problems. And then I lost a male Seahorse and I added a sump and added all this equipment. So I'm going to send it to you either way. Yeah, we're going to ask that in a second, Ray. I'll let you ask it. But what I was going to say is there space to add a sump if you had the ability?
I mean, I don't know fully what the sump. Well, I don't really think that the sump would fit.
Okay.
Just because the space here, you can see the shelf above it.
Uh-huh.
That one has like plants over it, so there's like a window up there. So like the space down here is tight.
Yes. So how big is the tank actually? I know you got it from Ray, but how big is the tank?
This one is not for Ray.
That one's not for me. The
Oh,
one
sorry.
that's just going to put the fry in.
Yeah. This one is 35 gallons.
35 gallons with 2 Seahorses is perfect. That's
Mhm.
great. So what I would say is you're doing fine. You're doing great. Look how happy the Seahorses are. 2 Seahorses and a 35. That's amazing. What I would say is I am going to send you that skimmer because you're going to eventually, once you have more Seahorses and once they start having babies and you keep some and etc., you're going to want a sump. Or even if you just keep that pair for long term, I feel like the skimmer will come in handy because that's one of the major things that we recommend. You have done nothing wrong. You're fine. Your Seahorses are happy, but just it gets to a point where the buildup, because the Seahorses eat so much and poop so much, that eventually the organics build up. I mean, if again, I know I'm rambling, guys, but
Well, the nice thing though about her size of tank is it's small enough that she can do big water changes if she needs to.
what I was gonna say is if you're willing to do like huge water changes to make sure your organics stay low, you could do that without any of the equipment we ever talk about. But if you're lazy like me, and I think Ray said he's lazy too, then you want to add the
I don't think about it. I know it.
right.
Yeah,
I think it's like
same here.
Well, I think it's like you get Seahorses and you're like, oh my God, they're so amazing. And I want to do everything for them. And you're doing all these water changes and you're making sure everything's perfect. And it works. And it's fine. But then, they're part of your family, like your kids, And you're like, I don't feel like doing a water change for you right now. I'm good. You're good. Everything
When
looks
you're 6 years in, changing water every week and 2 tanks.
because it gets to a point where it looks good and you know that what you've been doing is working, but it looks good. So maybe I can back up and not do so many water changes. As long as you keep up the water changes, you'll be fine forever. But
Yeah.
if you don't want to, then you have to then add like a sump and a skimmer and all the stuff that we talk about, because that makes it easier on us as human beings. And Sofie, I would tell you that, like with my 65-gallon tank, I literally don't have any space underneath it. It's a PetSmart tank. It's not drilled. I had to use overflow box and all that. And the sump sits outside of it. I know Holly has one like that too. So again, I would say, as long as you're willing to do the work and do the water changes, then you're golden. The only Ray, do you want to tell us why a canister is scary?
Well, because as soon as it takes in detritus or uneaten food, that food is decaying. And if you don't clean it out twice every week at the minimum, then as it decays, it's releasing the dissolved organics. And you're okay for a little bit, but as those dissolved organics start building up, you can do a water change. You could change half the water out, and there's still a hell of a pile of that DO left in there. And so from that point on, from the water change, the level's starting up again. But now you started down at 0 at first. Now you're starting at an X level that you're down to half of what it was, but you're starting at a higher level. Now you go on a while again, you do another change. Well, at this point, your level that you've got up to in DO is higher than what it was before. So when you do 50% of water change, now the next session you start off at, you're starting at a higher level of DO.
Right.
Than the first two occurrences. So gradually that level keeps on building up until it becomes problematic. And I know I'm lazy, and so I don't hook up my canister filter to any Seahorse tank. I still have it here, but I used it to polish the water one time, and I can't remember what happened, but it went cloudy, and oh yeah, it's too long ago. I don't remember just what.
Sure.
I know I hooked it up to one of the Seahorse tanks. I suspected it was a bacterial infection, and it went all whitish cloudy and everything on me. And
You hooked up the canister.
I hooked up a homemade rig to put in diatomaceous earth, because the diatomaceous earth will filter out the fine particles like that. And there isn't any standard filter that will do that.
Gotcha. Well,
So just jury rigging.
Mm-hmm.
sure. And I would say that to Sofie, like directly to you, if anybody asks, if any new person says, how should I set up a Seahorse tank? We're always going to say, sump, do the sump, because then you can have more equipment. Like the skimmer that I'm going to send you, you won't be able to use without a sump, because it's literally the box. It's big, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will also say that when I started off, I didn't have any of that, right?
Yeah,
I had
same here.
20-gallon tank, and my Seahorses not only survived, they did well. You're doing everything. I did want to ask what kind of light you have over the tank for the macros.
This one, so when I was choosing the light, I have a night crew light.
Okay.
I did have to go, obviously I was paying for everything in this tank.
Sure.
So I couldn't go with like the most expensive and like best option.
Sure.
But yeah, that's
Who's gonna do that anyways? Not me. Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, anyways, so I have a night crew light. Yeah, I just kind of I searched it up for a while.
Sure.
It's just like a bar that's over top.
So does it have a certain Kelvin, or does it have a certain, like PAR or any of that? Do you know any of that stuff?
No.
You know what? Here's the cool things, guys, is that with macros, light works. As long as they have light, they're going to love it. Now, there are some macros that need higher light, but you're not only should you research that prior, and Sofie does not have any macros that need highlight, but you should know that prior. And if you get into all the lighting, yeah, it matters. But like over my tank, I have a cheap, very cheap, LED light over my tank, and I just have the macros that can handle that don't need high temperature, that don't need high light, and it just works. Who's texting me? Okay.
Want to ask something, Sofie?
Go ahead.
How close is the other tank to this one?
It's like a meter.
Can you move it closer?
I mean,
wanting to see it, Ray? Is that what you want to do?
Pardon? No. It's just that you don't need a sump for fry, and you could take the overflow off the other tank, put it on this one, and you can plumb to the sump on the other stand.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I could theoretically move it closer, but I would have to like drain the entire aquarium. And since like it's like a corner here, and like things don't really fit that well if I were to move it closer.
No.
But.
Well, and here's the point that I want to make to anybody that's watching this, because I did advertise this as if you're wanting to keep seahorses, what should you do? We can have a whole other conversation about that because we've already had that with Sofie, and Sofie's here and she has seahorses. But the thing is, she's doing everything right. She's not doing anything wrong.
And there's lots of people that use canisters and get by fine.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You just have to make sure and maintain them is the thing. Like Ray was saying, it's just a lot of maintenance on the canister filters. But if you do that, you're fine.
As long as you clean the canister like you're supposed to, as you do your water changes like you're supposed to. I mean, that tank looks perfect to me. That is, and she followed the rules, meaning only 2 seahorses per 30 gallons, right? That's what she has. She used macros. And I swear, guys, I know that Holly and Ray may disagree with me because they're not macro people, but I am. And I'm going to say macros make
I was asking you about the names of the macros I had in this one.
I forgot. Okay, so Holly's the only one that's like all artificial. Holly, you're artificial as heck. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I always loved using macros and gorgonians because they do work. You're not seeing, right? That as us people, we don't see what's going on in the water, and those macros are taking stuff up. It is just like anything else. If you're not harvesting macro, to take it out, it's just, but we've had this conversation before, Ray. I swear, Sofie, I'm going to get back to you, I promise. But we've had this conversation before, Ray. And like you said, if you have macro in a tank and you're not harvesting it, you're not taking it out. But if it keeps growing, it's taking it up and it's growing.
But it doesn't always happen that it keeps growing. Look how many people end up with die off from their macros. When it dies off, then it's going to release everything that it has captured.
Sure.
Or if it goes sexual, same thing. It's going to follow the tank again.
Well, there's always a what if, and there's always this could be worst case scenario. I've had macro go sexual. It sucks. I lost a dwarf lionfish to it because I didn't know what to do in the cloud and he suffocated. Anyways, back to the point. That doesn't typically happen if you're paying attention to your tank, right? So, Sofie, in this instance, you've chosen to use canister. You've chosen to use macros. And I see you have sand. I see you have rock. It's a very natural looking tank. There's only 2 seahorses in it. Are they doing amazing for you?
Yeah, so far.
Do they eat like champs?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I know Sofie just because I've gotten to know her from Wine Wednesday and through Ray, that like she is the type that if anything, like if they stopped eating or something, she would instantly be back here talking to us, and she would do whatever she had to do to make sure that they were okay. So what she's doing is not wrong. It's an amazing tank. I mean, look at it. And look how happy the male is dancing out for us, right? So it goes to show there's different ways you can do things. You just have to have that knowledge that if I use a canister, I better make sure that I don't skip any changing of filters. If I don't have a sump, I better make sure to do my water changes. What's your schedule so far, Sofie, for water changes and such?
It's like 2 times a week. I change around. Okay, well, it's kind of empty right now, but like I change about this much water out of it. 2 times a week.
All right, and I do notice that there's not much movement at the top. What do we got going on for flow?
I think she has it turned off at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I assumed. I was asking for that purpose. What do we got going on for flow?
So I've got this one, and actually I did have a power head in there. I just took it out because I was cleaning some stuff earlier. But yeah, generally it sits inside the tank.
So how do you, and this is a question I get asked all the time, and I don't usually have sand in my tank, so I'm always like, oh, what did I do with my reef tank? I don't remember. How do you position a power head or wave maker so that it provides the flow you need for detritus and for, flow, whereas it doesn't pick up sand and make a mess?
I mean, I've never had the problem that it would pick up sand. It generally stays like high up, and the ones that Ray gave me only go out like one direction and like straight out horizontally. So I've never had that problem.
Gotcha. So you just put it high up, it bounces off the sides and just creates the flow. Gotcha. Okay, nice. Oh, Zen Ginger said, when I finally get Seahorses, which one of you is up at 4 a.m. and willing to receive late night phone calls or texts? Come on.
I'm up at 4 a.m. I get up about 3. 2:30 or 3. That's morning to me.
Look at these bags. I don't sleep.
But don't call me at 7 or 8 at night because I'm already in bed.
You can call me literally anytime. If I answer and I'm like, hello, just give me a minute and we'll be good, right? Okay.
I want to know how she's going to know at 4 in the morning that there is something wrong.
Because she's
She could
up.
be in bed sleeping, so how is she going to know?
Because she's up at 4 a.m. She's not sleeping.
Then again, is it 4 a.m. Eastern or Central or what?
4 a.m. period, Ray. I just don't sleep. And when I do, it's the wrong time. And then somebody calls me and there's no more sleep. But I was going to say, Zen also says she's 14. Well, if I already didn't feel bad about my inability to commit, now I do. That's it, Zen. Feel bad. We want to see the commitment. No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. But anyways, let's go back to Sofie. So how's it been so far? When you got your Seahorses, did they eat automatically? Like what? Tell me your process. You got the Seahorses. Tell me all about it. You unpackaged the box. Tell me.
Well, so I got the Seahorses. The drive home was around 2 hours, so they were kind of sad by the time we got home.
Yeah.
I got them, it was, I think, around 4 p.m. when they finally came home. And then when I brought them back, I tried to feed them around 6, something like that. they wouldn't eat. I tried again around like 8 and they wouldn't eat. I didn't really expect them, honestly, to eat at that time because they were really sad when they came home.
So
But
I hate to interrupt you, but what do you mean by they were really sad? What do you mean?
Like, they were hiding mostly, and
dark colored.
Yeah, and like the mail, especially in the bag, kept going like back and forth and back and forth. And like overall, they weren't very active. They were kind of just staying hitched in one spot, not moving, not caring at all if I gave them food.
Probably shy and scared because they
Well,
were in a new, scary place.
This is the reason I'm asking you these questions, Sofie, is for anybody new that watches this. You know, if you ship seahorses, they're gonna be scared for a minute.
It's a traumatic experience.
So go on, Sofie. What next?
Then so after that day, I didn't try to feed them again because I wasn't working. The next day, I think they ate around like the time I woke up. I tried to feed them again, and they ate that morning. So like for me, it was pretty easy bringing them home.
Yeah.
They ate pretty quickly.
Well, sure. I mean, and that's it. They're hungry, right? They're just, they don't, you know, I mean, imagine it, guys. You've been in a box for 24 hours, and there's this big face that you've never seen before being like, eat, you know, here's food. You're going to be like, hell no, right? So, I mean, that's.
Oh, for any other new people that get into the hobby, and when they get their seahorses, whether it's shipped or whether they drive to get them and bring them home, the seahorses do have a stress situation. When you're not knowing how they're going to react or how they're supposed to react. So don't get too upset over it, because it's 99% of the time they're going to be okay. They just have to ride out that stress period.
Yes.
And you could have half a dozen that you get at the same time, and some of them might be okay, and the others might take a day or two to get around to it, but they will come around to it. It's very seldom that you have a problem in receiving them through a shipment or just going to buy them and bringing them home yourself.
No, I have a video out there of my piebalds, and I was all worried, and I literally did a video showing, okay, so these seahorses aren't eating. I just got them from Dan. They're not eating. I got them today. Next day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put some food in. Let me back away from the tank, right? Because my big face in their tank is probably not helping anything, right? And I think that Sofie did right. You know, try feeding. If they don't eat, make sure that you clean up the mess. I'm sure you did, Sofie. And then try feeding again. And if they don't eat, clean up the, you know, make sure there's no, you don't want to overstimulate. You don't want to throw a bunch of food in and have that cause problems when they're already stressed. We talk all the time with seahorses, they have a different immune system, right? So if they're already stressed and then the organics get crazy, that's a recipe for disaster. Now, when you have a new tank, that's usually not going to happen. But I'm just saying, don't like try to throw food at them, and then sorry, I'm trying to read Ray's comments too, but don't throw food at them thinking, why aren't they eating? I'll throw more. No, clean up the mess as Sofie did. She did exactly right. Wait till the next day. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be like, all right, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know who this face is, but that's food. I'm going to eat. They will eat, right? I mean, like, Holly, I'm being silly, but I'm right.
You'll see them. They'll. You can almost tell, like, after you've had seahorses for a while, it's hard when they're your first ones and you don't know their behavior yet.
Yeah.
But after you've had seahorses for a while, you'll know when they're hungry because they'll start looking around for the food. You know, after they've relaxed, you know, and they're not feeling hidey anymore and scared, they'll start exploring their surroundings and looking around, and that's usually a good time to introduce the food because they're looking to find food.
Go ahead, Ray. Ask your question.
Okay, the gravel vac, if
No,
you don't
ask.
have one,
Wait,
it can aid in
Ray.
what?
People watching don't know the question. Ask the question.
Oh, I was just wondering if she had a gravel vac, because
Okay,
with a substrate there, in time, it's going to build up detritus in there. And if you do little bits at a time with a gravel vac, it's not going to destroy any biological filter because you're only doing part of it at a time. I used to do usually a quarter, or on a smaller tank, sometimes I did a fifth of it. On the larger tanks, I had enough rock, I didn't have to worry about it, but I still would never clean the whole substrate at the same time. And a gravel vac is basically, it's a siphon, but it has a large diameter tube that's maybe 10, 12 inches long that you sit and you push into the gravel. The gravel gets sucked up by the siphon flow, and well, that's a more complicated
That's
one.
a fancy one.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, that is a fancy one. Let me see if I can go back.
Mine's just a hose with a cup on the end.
Let's
But
Google.
basically, why I was asking is I should have my old one still here somewhere. All I got to do is find it. So it's not a panic thing because it's not going to build up that detritus in a hurry.
So
But
all,
eventually, it'd be better to have it cleaned out.
so this looks more like mine. It's just
Yeah.
simple. And I would say too, one of the videos that I did make long ago is that I used to take.
Grabbed mine. So here's what it looks like.
All right, hang on. Let me turn this off so they can see you. Hang on. Stop sharing. Okay. Stop sharing. Sorry, guys. Hang on. Everything's new here. All right, Holly, go ahead.
So this is one. They come in different sizes. This one you can see it's pretty big because I have a big tank, but I have a smaller one for my freshwater tank because it's a smaller tank. So they do come in smaller sizes than this, but basically it's a siphon with a cup at the end, and you can steer it around in the sand like this, and the sand kind of flies around inside of here and gets cleaned. It sucks out the water, but not much sand. So it cleans your sand.
So, hey, I have a question real quick, Holly, before I make you small. Is that one that you have to like make the siphon yourself, or does it have one of the squeezies? Okay, tell us how you do that.
I do it the old-fashioned way. I suck it real quick.
Oh no!
And it starts the siphon, and that's how I do it.
All
Hey,
right.
I've done that.
That's how I do all my siphoning.
I'm gonna tell you.
Now
guys,
my husband will take it and shove it down in the water and back up, and that starts the siphon. But
no, I'm gonna tell you guys, you don't have to. I'm not even gonna say the words. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to suck it.
If this was the hose, right? Not the hose, the
cup part.
The big part that you suck things up
Yeah.
with. If you go into the water, right? And you go like this, and then you have the line, and you pull it out of the water and it starts draining, and then you put it back into the water, you have a siphon. You don't have to.
That's how my husband does it.
There are also much, as I showed you just a moment ago, there are much better ones that have a squeeze.
A squeeze bulb. My freshwater tank one has a squeeze bulb on it.
Or
I have this one.
Yep, like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You already got it. All right. So we've already established she has it. She's got it all figured out. So Ray, why is the vacuum important? And you said basically your point was don't do the entire sand at the same time, right? Tell us again.
Well, the reason for not doing the whole lot of the sand is just to minimize the amount of beneficial bacteria, what's doing the nitrification of that. You're not taking out a big chunk of it all at once by just doing portion of it. But it's important to clean the gravel because it will build up with detritus. That detritus is decaying, and it's just like in any filter material. If you don't remove it, it's going to continue decaying and increasing the DO levels.
And so I would say in my first tank, I did not have sand. It was bare bottom, but I had literally your setup, Sofie. I had rock and I had macros, and that was my setup. And it worked. And you're fine. And I didn't even have a canister. I had hang on the back stuff. And it worked for about a year. So you're good, like for first keeping seahorses. And then you'll notice all of a sudden you start to get, bad nuisance algae in the tank, after about a year. And obviously stuff's building up and you have sand, so it'll start building up. And then if you use the gravel vac, like Ray said, and then at that point, if I've sent you my skimmer by then, hopefully within a year, right? Then
hold on a sec. Check out the shipping cost to ship a skimmer here, because I just ordered 2 little packages of tomato seed from the US, and it was a total of $7 for the seed, and it cost me 46 and change for shipping.
do you still have your birthday present, Ray?
Have my what?
Your birthday present that we sent you, your plaque? My point.
The plaque's out there. I'm looking for the little seahorse.
Oh, no, I didn't need you to show it. I was just going to say I'm not worried about the shipping cost.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm
Anyway.
just saying, I know what you're saying, and I appreciate that. But if I can help a seahorse keeper, I'm going to do it. And so I guess it's okay that I haven't sent it yet because you don't have a sump yet. But I'm telling you that eventually, especially if you're going to deal with babies and raising babies, you're going to need a sump eventually. So right now you have the tank set up properly for 2 seahorses. You have the Ray tank set up for fry, right? And then
it'd be more for I think she was planning on trying the jars first for when they're small, which is safer than doing them in a tank with an overflow, that's for sure. And then growing them out once they're unfrozen and that and get to be larger, then she could put them in the tank.
For the juveniles.
Yeah. So it's your juvie tank.
It'd be a little harder trying to go from scratch, taking newborns and putting them in that tank.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could do it, but you'd have to shut down the overflow because there's not much way that you can keep the fry from going over the overflow except for putting material on there, and they get swept up against the material and it traps them. When it holds them there, they suffocate.
Yep. I was going to say, like, when I got really into fry, I set up the tubs because the tubs work best. But when I was just raising fry because I just wanted to, because I wanted to see them grow up and I wanted to keep them myself, I used goldfish bowls, I think. I mean, like, and I just swapped them out daily. So I think you're set up for success. So, Sofie, what are your plans? What are your goals? Like, I know you just wanted to keep a unique creature and you're doing it and they look so happy, but what are you hoping to do with this aside from just...
I am hoping for fry. That hasn't happened yet.
Get them before me, I'm going to be mad at you, just so you know. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm really hoping for fry, but I haven't got anything yet. We'll see, I guess, if that happens.
Have you had them?
A month?
Oh yeah, you're still
They're safer anyway because as long as you have them in there treating them the way you are, you're going to build up their immune system on there, which also makes it better for them when they have their first fry. Many times the fry aren't viable when they first get them because they're having them before they've had their
Where
nutrient
they're really ready.
improvement
Mhm.
when they get them from a store or wherever. So by not having them now, it's given a better baseline to be able to produce viable fry. Unfortunately, they won't produce as many at that earlier stage. Like a few years from now, you'll be sitting there 2, 3, 400 fry.
Yes, exactly. So Sophie, what he just said is crucial, because that's the thing, is that I've got a busy work schedule. That the chances are the reason that my seahorses aren't giving me fry is because my tank's probably not up to par. I mean, just being honest here, I'm not feeding them 3 times a day like I should. I try to, but I'm just really busy. So if you're doing, like, are you feeding them like 3 times a day? Are you?
I'm feeding them 4 times a day.
Ooh, nice. She's gonna have fry before me, you guys. I guarantee it. So that's the key. If that's what you're hoping for, well, first of all, if you're just wanting to have incredibly long-term and healthy seahorses, then feed 4 times a day, right? If you're in a situation like mine where I'm hectic and kids going to college and work and changing jobs and all this other stuff, then they will be okay, but I'm not getting fry because I haven't made their environment perfect.
Mhm.
Sophie's doing the right thing 4 times a day. How are you pulling that off?
It's 1 time in the morning. My mom feeds them when I'm at school, once when I get back from school, and once before I go to bed.
Great. Love it.
No. I'm flying you to my house so that you can teach my daughters how to be responsible human beings. They can't even take care of themselves, and here you are taking care of seahorses. Oh my God. All right. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead, Ray. What were you saying?
Well, I lost track now.
Oh, I'm sorry. But
I
yeah.
just love the fact that she's doing it 4 times a day. And for those of you that still are resistant to it, remember that even a half hour to 3/4 an hour between 2 feedings is sufficient to make a difference.
Yes.
Because in that half hour to 3/4, that digestive tract, it can be worked on they'll remove the nutrient in what's in the digestive tract. And when they pass out the feces, they won't be so nutrient laden to follow up the water anymore. Plus, the fact is, the seahorse is going to be able to take more advantage of the food that's gone through there by extracting more nutrient.
Absolutely. Instead of stuffing themselves and just getting rid of it.
And
Yeah, so on occasion, you
definitely
don't have to have 4 evenly spaced time periods.
Right.
I personally like that, but like when I was still in business, I couldn't do 4 time out, spaced out. It was just an impossible thing. But I could, when I got up in the morning, feed them once before I went into work, feed them again. When I come home, feed them again, and at nighttime, feed them again.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sophie. What were you going to say?
I'm definitely lucky to have like my parents that are willing to do this for me. Even my dad now is also setting up a saltwater aquarium because he saw my aquarium, not a seahorse aquarium, but a little one, 4 gallons.
What's he doing?
He's just going to do a few corals. He said he only wants like 3.
So
He's doing like a nano tank, sounds like. Those are
what
cool.
coral is he thinking of?
I don't know. He doesn't know any types of coral at this point. He just thinks they're pretty.
Well, tell him he needs to come to Wine Wednesday. We can talk about coral too. I love that conversation too, and I'd love to hear what he's thinking of. And I'm not a, I don't claim to be a coral expert, but I have kept every kind of coral, and I can help where I can. But I'd love to talk to him on the side because that's so cool. And I love that your experience is spreading. Sharing, getting other people involved and really loving it. Okay, so back to
Tell your dad, when I got into salt water back, I think it was 92, I converted one of my freshwater tanks over. It was a 30 gallon. I converted over to salt water. and within 6 months, I was running about 1,000 gallons of salt water in the basement.
Listen,
It's
listen,
very, very addictive.
it is. I did first. I did freshwater. I was, and I got into that, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And I was breeding freshwater angelfish, and my mother-in-law still has a freshwater angelfish that I bred in her home, right? But then I was like, "Oh my God, there's coral!" Oh, and then I found, "Oh my God, there's seahorses!" Ah! Right. So my house is still covered in tanks. They're just not full anymore, unfortunately. Because after I lost my mom, I kind of lost the everything. But when I first got in, it is so addictive. But they're so amazing. And the one thing that bothers me the most is that we can't find more species, right? So when we have people that join the groups and join Wine Wednesday and etc., that have combs, that have barbori, that have cuda, that have red eye, and they're breeding them, I'm like so pushing them. Yes, keep going. Send them to me. I'll try because we need to have more species. Because at one point I had literally 6 different species in my house, and I kept them all separated, of course. But I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Back to the point, and a new keeper just keeping to Erectus is amazing too. And what I really love is that Sofie turned on her camera for 2 seconds and her male was up there dancing for us.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And he was like, I mean, of course he's saying, "Give me food." But I also feel like they know they're beautiful and they're showing up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
They do. I know mine do. They know.
So
Yeah.
They know that thing is looking at them.
Yeah. So Sofie, you're feeding 4 times a day. You're doing 2 water changes a week. What else? What are your observations as a new seahorse keeper? Like, what surprised you? What were you like, "Oh, I didn't figure that would happen," or I know you had Ray teaching you, and he knows everything. So, like, what were you like, "Oh, I'm so glad that he told me that because I didn't worry when they changed color," or "I did worry when this." Tell me, just a little bit about your first experience with them. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit. Well, okay, so I was really surprised by how much care I had to take care of them. It was kind of because I was all set up to feed them once or twice a day, do like 1 water change a week. And then kind of when I met Ray, that kind of completely changed my idea. The
That was
color
your dad's
changing.
fault for buying that table.
Pardon?
That was your dad's fault for buying that table. He
Yeah.
let it slip one time that you had an interest in seahorses. Oh boy, that did it right there.
It was over.
Well, he was like amazed that he found someone else because I didn't know anyone else that has seahorses. So it was just like amazing that there was some other person and so close to us that has seahorses.
And again, like was there something that pushed you towards them in general? I know that you're just an ocean lover. You wanted a creature, but like why seahorses?
I honestly think it's just because they're such a strange and
yes,
like they're not a creature that like most people have.
Yeah.
And they're just so weird because like sometimes it feels like they shouldn't exist anymore. Like they don't swim very well, and they need like their eating needs to be very like, and they don't have stomachs too. Like they're really interesting.
But now
it's
that you
easy
have
to forget they're a fish. They're not like a fish, really. Like you think of a fish, and they don't fit the profile of fish very well.
Right.
Well, there are a lot of fish that don't have digestive tracts, just the same as a seahorse.
Right.
Tangs, for instance. Tangs don't have a digestive tract.
See, and I never would have known that.
Or I shouldn't say it. They don't have a stomach. They just have a rudimentary digestive tract like the seahorses do.
Sure. But I mean, now that you're keeping them, Sofie, are you, and I know it's only been a month, but are you getting that feel for, oh my gosh, they're like puppies. They're like, they interact with me. This is also different from other fish because they have personality. Like they interact. I don't know. I
didn't figure they would be so friendly because like the moment I stick my hand in the tank, it's like they're there. And while I'm cleaning, it's cute, but it's kind of annoying too because I'm like
they follow the steps.
They always like try while I'm like taking the water out. They're just trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, I don't want to like suck you up though. But it's
I've sucked up many a seahorse.
No, and not sucking up a seahorse, but Holly, you've talked many times about you're trying to clean a tank, and then all of a sudden there's a seahorse on your pinky, and you're like, "Nah, I'm trying to clean. Stop."
They're interested in what you're doing, and I think too, like when you're siphoning, and I use a bunch of different siphons. They're basically like air hoses for me of all different sizes. So I use different ones to siphon out food, and I use a big one to clean the tank. But I feed them with a turkey baster, which is also see-through plastic. And I think they associate the siphoning with food too. Like they know you're vacuuming up the food or they think that it's a source of food. I don't know, but they'll chase it around, or especially the juveniles when they're first learning and they're curious about everything. They used to chase my siphon around the tank as I'm vacuuming. They get older and they know stuff, after they're several years old, it's a little different. They're not quite as playful and
rambunctious.
And rambunctious as the younger ones are. So now that mine are older, they don't really do that. They'll watch, but they know what's going on, so they don't try to chase it anymore. But when they were really young, that was a big game to them. They loved chasing the siphon around the tank.
Sofie, I'm curious because I know you're like me and you want fry, and I know a lot of you out there that want seahorses don't want fry. Again, we could have a whole episode about how to prevent fry, but right now me and Sofie want fry. So have you seen any, and obviously you're doing some of the right things, meaning you're feeding them the right way 4 times a day, with periods in between. Have you done anything? Have you thought about doing anything like enriched live foods, or is that even available in your area? Probably not.
I have some enrichment I've given her.
No. Like, are there live feeds in your area?
Well, if she wants, she can grow them.
Yeah, that's a pain in the butt. I would not suggest it, Sofie, unless you're interested in a science experiment, because that's a pain in the butt. But okay, so let's go back to the basics. If you really like, for me, I can get live feeds that I could enrich. My seahorses are not giving me fry. I might look at doing that if I want. So we could have a whole episode on if you want fry, what can you do? But in Sofie's situation, she's had them for 1 month. They're in a very big enough tank that's very clean, that has macros, that looks beautiful behind her, and they're dancing up to us. So they're very happy. Have you seen any courting behavior yet? And do you know what I mean, courting behavior?
I mean, like, sort of.
Okay.
But I haven't seen much between them. The only time they're really around each other is when they're eating.
Gotcha.
Give them another month or two.
Right.
Otherwise, they're kind of just doing their own thing separately, like away from each other.
So one of the things that I say, and I need to do a new tank setup video, but in my original, one of the things I say is the reason for the space is to let them get their areas and let them have their areas that's theirs, and that they don't have other things coming in and out of. And it, for some reason, it does matter to seahorses. They want their territory or whatnot, especially males. But I agree with Ray, give them a month, because when you start seeing them, what you'll start seeing is you'll start seeing them. Actually, let me back up.
They sit next to each other and they do this.
Yeah. No. Before that, Holly, did you notice color changes from the time you got them to the time they got in the tank to now?
A little bit.
Okay.
My male got like a little bit lighter, and then he got quite dark, and then my female got darker and then lighter.
Okay. Totally normal, completely normal. And that's kind of the point that I was trying to get across. Completely normal. Don't freak out if they start going crazy colors and you're like, what the heck? It's just their moods. It's literally their moods. And especially when they do, Sofie, when they do start doing the dance and doing the shake like Holly was showing, they'll start butting heads. And it looks like, what in the heck? That is somehow they're flirting, right?
Yeah, they get flirty with each other.
They, in my experience, every time seahorses get flirty, they go lighter. Have you guys had anything different happen, Holly, Ray?
Sorry?
I said, in my experience, when seahorses start to flirt and start to court, they go lighter. They'll turn almost white.
I don't think there is a set way.
Yeah, I was
some,
going to say I
I've had some that will never change. I've had some that go darker, some go lighter. So there's quite a mix. And the other thing to remember is, like, I've had over the 21 years an awful lot of seahorses.
Yeah.
And I would probably say 20% of them never ever did produce.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And do you have any thought process on why? Or
no, because when I sold seahorses, there was people that would end up with getting fry from the seahorses I sold them, and from the same damn batch, other people couldn't get them to produce.
Yes.
And see, I had my pair that was producing, and I didn't condition them, or I mean, their tank was a swamp. It was my, when I first started this tank, the first seahorses I got just went to town and started having kids, and none of the other ones have since. But their tanks are in better condition now than the ones that their parents were in.
Right.
So I don't know. Those two, they were just like rabbits. They were just all about making fry, and nobody else has been since. But I was going to say they do flirt with each other and stuff. I wouldn't say they always change lighter color. It's different. Every time. I have noticed that one will try to match the other one sometimes, whichever one decides to match, but it's not consistent. It's not like it's always the guy or it's always the girl.
No, I hear you. It's just so interesting to me because mine always, if I see all of a sudden, if I look over at the tank and they're both this silver, almost white color, I know they're breeding or I know they're courting. I shouldn't say breeding, courting, because when they come together, even two males, it doesn't even have to,
Oh yeah.
Anytime two seahorses come together and they turn this bright silverish white color, it just seems like they start acting like they're trying to produce fry. So that's interesting.
Now the males, what I've noticed when the males are well, they don't really fight, but when they're competing or I guess you could say fighting, they usually will go really light in color, except for dark highlights. Like their snout will be really dark, and around their eyes will be dark, like really pale with dark highlights. Like they look mad. They make themselves look mad, it seems.
Okay. So one thing I want to say real quick is that I did advertise this as new seahorse keeper questions. And obviously, Sofie already has her seahorses. So if you're a new seahorse keeper that's like, wait a minute, that you didn't talk about the tank size, you didn't talk about any of that. We're going to do an episode that literally goes through someone saying, I want to set up for seahorses. What tank size should I use? Why sand or not? All of those questions we're going to do. You can also come in and ask on any Line Wednesday because we'll answer you. Now we're going to go. The second thing I want to say is anybody that comes to this episode or to any episode knows I admit my mistakes. Ray's called me out on stuff numerous times. I still don't have fry, you guys, because I'm not taking care of my tank like I should be. My seahorse.
Well, tell Zen to just listen to you because she doesn't want fry.
Zen, Ray! Now my feelings are hurt. Okay, no, but I'm kidding. My point is we all make mistakes and we're all human and whatever. So the next topic of discussion is going to be, let's talk about the heater in the tank, Sofie.
So I chose to get a heater because I had corals and I do have like a little fish at the bottom of the aquarium, like a goby. And my house gets very cold in the winter. My parents do not like excessively using heating or air conditioning. So I do, like, the water gets really, really cold. So I'm not going above 74. I'm generally staying at 72, I think. But I did have to get a heater for that. I saw that Ray was talking about the burns. I didn't know about the burns, so I will look into how I can cover that. I just don't have a sump on this aquarium, so I can't put it in that.
No, so I'm going to let Ray respond. But the thing is, they do have heater covers, or maybe Holly. Holly has a comment. But the thing is, you see how your seahorses hitch on everything, right? So if they hitch on that heater when it is heating up, it will burn them. Go ahead, Holly. I'll shush.
So you can get heater guards. They actually sell them on Amazon. If you do a search on Amazon,
I'm looking them up now.
You can find heater guards, and what it is, it's a plastic casing that snaps over the heater. So it keeps them from attaching to it. They can sit on the plastic and not be attached to the heater. You can also block them off. Like I've used heaters in my hospital tank in winter before, and I've used things to section them off so that the seahorses can't get to it. But the heater guards, once I found those, that was a really cool thing.
Yeah, I just looked those up and I found.
Yeah, so it's like a plastic casing that will fit around your heater. And they do work. I've used them in my hospital tank. How cold does it get in your house? Like, what's the coldest temp you guys get to, you think?
I know it in Celsius. 1 second. Hold up.
What's it in Celsius? 20
Like
is 68.
19 or so?
Oh, my light turned off. 1 sec. It's like
20 degrees Celsius is 68 Fahrenheit.
Yeah. 19
yeah, we get
is okay.
We get around to that, like, to that temperature, like 20, sometimes a little bit lower than that.
Yeah.
It's just that I do have to keep it high, like my water higher, because I do have fish and some other corals?
Well, I'll tell you, I keep a goby with one tank of seahorses, and I have a heater set to come on at 67 degrees, which I believe is around 19 Celsius, 18 Celsius, right in there. And when I do my water changes, the water is a little colder. It'll bring the temperature down to like 66-ish. And they don't seem to mind. The goby doesn't mind either, and I have a crab in there. And they're oh, thank you. Yeah. 19 is equal to 66. So at that temperature, like if they're in the upper 60s, I'd say they're probably fine without a heater.
Okay.
Mine will still eat, like my normal winter tank temperature is probably just above the 19. I see 19 is 66.2. My tanks run about 67 to 69 in winter. So I'm saying around 19 to 20 Celsius probably. And they eat fine, and the goby's happy. It doesn't bother the crab. Yeah, they're okay. I don't know about your gorgonias and things like that. Kelly, do you know
So
about if they're
I do.
typical?
Begonias are fine. Macros, the basic ones like what you have, are fine. But what I would say, and this is, guys, I'm gonna have to call this by 10 o'clock because I gotta be at work at 5 a.m. just to let you know.
Gotcha.
But I would say that if you're wanting fry, that makes a difference. And Ray and Holly, you can argue with me or have a conversation about it. But in my experience, if you're wanting fry, you want the temperature higher. Now, again,
That makes sense.
Well, hang on. I was going to say we're doing a, new keeper video. So new keepers, keep your temperature as low as you can, because the lower your temperature, the less bacteria can affect your seahorses, right? You're going to keep your seahorses long term with a lower temperature. But then once you've kept seahorses for a minute, or if you're, an experienced 14-year-old like Sofie that's kept all these fish, then I can honestly say if you're wanting fry, then letting the temperature rise a little bit is a thing. But again, new keepers, keep your temperature low. You don't need a heater. So in your case, Sofie, what I would say is, even without a sump, I would give your horses time to start courting. I would take the heater out. That's what I would do. I would take it out. I would not worry about the temperature, because lower is not going to hurt them. It's just going to make them not breed and or be slower. But they're fine. Cheryl used to tell a story about getting seahorses from somewhere, and they were all laying at the bottom of the box, and she thought they were all gone. And then she put them in the tank, and they all laid at the bottom of the tank. And then she slowly raised the temperature, and they were up and eating. Like, the lower temperature kind of puts them in hibernation mode, if I can say that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you have anything to worry about with your temperatures. And even without a sump, if you decide after you've gotten to know your seahorses, I know you already are, but if you decide after you've gotten to know them and you're ready for them to breed and give you fry, that you want to raise the temperature or keep it at a certain temp, then get the guard. But I don't think you need. Ray, do you disagree? Does she need a heater right now?
Well, only if she's not comfortable. I had corals. I had colt corals in Kenyas down at that 68 degrees, and they never suffered.
Right. And what was the thing?
I think things acclimate to it too. They get used to it, I think. Like if you gradually low, because like I said, my goby has no trouble with the colder water.
And you said so.
It's used to it.
What?
Pardon?
You said it's a go. What other fish are in the tank?
It's a goby, a little yellow watchman goby.
Oh,
That's what I
awesome.
have. I have a blue spotted watchman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if it, no, we're not here to tell anybody what to do, right? Set up your tank the way you want. We're just trying to help people set up for success. I would say Ray did catch that, and that's great, because you don't want a heater without a guard in a Seahorse tank, because they will end up hitching to it and burning themselves. So,
Okay.
yeah, and I mean, you're doing everything right. So if you don't, you're doing great.
As long as the heater doesn't come on, which
Yeah.
it may not do if you've got the cold house there with your lights on and with the pumps going, that's going to increase the water temperature slightly anyway. So it might
Right.
be that now that your heater doesn't come on very often, so that when they hitch on it, there's no problem.
Right.
It's only if the heater's actually on and they hitch to it that you're going to have the burn.
But just to avoid that, a $10 heater guard.
Yeah, put a guard on it and then set it for a low temperature, like maybe set it to come on like at 65 or something,
So-
lower than you have it, just so it's not on a lot. And you can use, what I found though is a lot of heaters won't go that low. So the way I correct for that, when I'm running a heater like in a hospital tank, for instance, because I run the temp real low,
Mhm.
I use one of those Inkbird things to regulate the heater.
Yeah. Well, and we got to
Because a
remember,
lot of them don't go that low in temp.
right? But we got to remember, Sophie's 14. She's doing amazing things as a 14-year-old. And look, we're having a wine.
Absolutely.
Anyways, no, I was just gonna say she is keeping seahorses successfully. So who can't, accomplish this? She is doing it. And hey, every time I show my tank, Ray says, why are you doing it this way? You need to fix this. I mean, we all, find things that we need to correct and etc. And so I would just say put a guard on it. Holly gave you great recommendations for if you're trying to keep it cooler. The goby, and Holly, your goby doesn't mind, right?
No, not at all. I have a hermit crab and a goby in that tank, and neither one of them seems to mind when it's colder. But they've been in there for years. Like they're as old as Dandy, so about 6 years old now. And, they're just used to the temperatures that I keep. So I think that's part of it. Like the things in your tank, unless there's something that really can't take a lower temperature, they do adjust to it.
Which is, again, why I always say you can't keep like crazy SPS that need the high temps.
Yeah, certain things won't make it. Like I had some coral in the beginning that didn't like the temps, I think. I had a Xenia and it didn't like it.
And I'll be honest, I don't know about zoas. I've never kept zoas in a Seahorse tank. Have you, Holly?
No, I don't think that was what I had. I had the Xenia, the pulsing Xenia thing. And I had something else, and I don't remember what it was, but they didn't like it in my tank. And I think I figured out, because I talked to the lady I introduced you to at my local fish store.
Yeah.
They have a lot of saltwater stuff, mostly coral stuff. And she said it was the temperature. She said that they don't like it like below 70. So some things don't.
And that's a learning experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of you, Sofie, the macros and the coral that you're currently keeping, I've kept with seahorses, without a heater. And I'm not saying don't keep your heater. I'm just saying take Ray's advice and get a guard if that's the way you want to keep your tank.
The one thing that she has over many other people that get into the hobby was the interest to learn all about it before she got into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many 14-year-olds would do that? Most of them are going to say, I want this, and they're going to go out
Get
and
this
get it
fish.
right away.
Yeah.
They don't want to wait.
My 18-year-old wouldn't do that. Are you kidding me? They're like, yeah, no.
Well, I think that if I was gonna go out and spend like $400 on 2 fish, I need to know a little bit more about them.
Yeah.
How much you pay?
A lot of money.
I paid
It's a lot more
3
expensive here.
Yeah, I think I paid like in total $370. That was like with tax.
This is why we need more hobby breeders, right? Because
Yeah.
she didn't pay too much because that's what they cost these days. But man, when I used to buy them from Dan, they were under $100.
$70, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I used to have people wanting to buy them from me, and they'd get ticked off if I asked them for $35.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember Dan saying that the problem was that he was selling them for 70, but then shipping was, $34. And everybody would be like, I'm not paying that much for shipping. Well, I'm glad I paid that for shipping, right? Because now look at where we're at. But that's why we just need more people like Sofie, a 14-year-old that is going to breed seahorses. Are you kidding me? I love you. And hopefully I will someday, even though, Ray, I'm still mad at you because you said, yeah, we all know what Ray said in the comments. Zen, don't listen to him. But Zen doesn't want Fry anyway, so we're good. But I keep seeing Sofie look off to the left. Are your parents saying get off the dang computer? Perchance?
No, I'm looking at all the comments that are appearing.
On the computer.
Thankfully my parents have not showed up. I think this is the one time they won't bother me to get off.
Gotcha. Well, what
She has very good parents.
And we're not, I totally, absolutely know that because she's such a good kid, but we're not going to talk about her parents. So
She probably won't realize just how good they are for a number of years yet.
Listen, Sofie already told you I'm shipping you. Forget about skimmers and seahorses. I'm shipping you to my house so you can tell my 18-year-old they appreciate their mom because, oh my God, nothing like it. I can't imagine having a kid that's so interested in doing a good thing and interested in, seahorses, in doing something properly and caring about it. Because my kids are selfish and spoiled and they don't care about anything. Hope my kids never watch this, but it's the truth. Anyways, what other, so again, I will say, we will do an episode where we have someone that doesn't even have seahorses yet, like Baby Zen, come in and ask the questions about tank size and all the basic questions that we've covered before, but we need to have a new person episode. But I think that this has been a good episode for someone new that seahorses, going through what she has set up, what's okay, what's not, how to get better, and look how happy your seahorses are, right? So what else do we want to chat about before I do have to call it really soon, you guys? But Sofie, we want you to come back every week. So, you're invited every week. But what else what other questions do we have for Sofie? Or did I miss any questions in the comments or anything like that, guys?
I don't have too many more questions, but I do want to know, is there any way, because honestly, these dissolved organic things, they're kind of scaring me a little. It's just is there any way to know if they get, you've talked about algae and stuff.
There's no way to know.
You just have to assume.
No
I
test
think
kit whatsoever.
All right, hang on, guys. Ray answers first.
Who was it?
I
Chris.
haven't.
Chris sent a link to dissolved organics on the Wine Wednesday message thing.
Just
I'm
now?
just wondering. Pardon? I
Did
can't
he-
remember now because of my cognitive impairment. I don't remember whether there was an explanation for it that might do some good. It was
Okay.
regarding saltwater tanks, not Seahorse tanks specifically.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering if I give her that link, there might be something in that that could help explain it.
Okay, I'll try to find that. But in the meantime, what is your thoughts and explanation?
My thoughts on?
Yeah, like I'll try to find that link and share what Chris shared, like in the group. But I'm saying, like, what is your answer to her question? Like, we keep talking.
Well, unfortunately, there is no way to know what your DO levels are at this time. I've done some experimenting and I got in touch with Reef Chemistry Forum and some of the better experts on there gave me some tips, but so far nothing ever panned out. And to be honest with you now, I've stopped doing any more testing on it and trying to go any further because the consensus is that with today's technology, there is no way that we can have anything for a hobbyist to know what their DO levels are, even though they are so important. And the only way to know is to send a sample away to a lab.
And pay
It's
for it.
expensive for that. And by the time you get the results back, it's usually too late.
Holly, what's your thought?
My way is just to assume they're always there and always fight them. So I keep up on my maintenance, on my water changes, on my siphoning. Every time they eat, I try to get everything out that I can find that they didn't eat. All my mechanical filtration, like the filter socks, sponge type things that, soak up food and stuff. I clean those frequently. I just assume those dissolved organics are always there and they're always building up. So I am just always doing what I can to get them out. And that's just the way I see it
Gotcha.
at this point. I
No,
just assume they're there and do my best to fight them.
so what I will say, because this was supposed to be like new Seahorse Keeper episode, you shouldn't be afraid. And Sofie, you shouldn't be afraid. Because if you keep up on your maintenance, like, again, that's why we say a sump is better because you have more water volume and you have this, that, and the other. But if you keep up on your water changes, it shouldn't become a problem. It becomes a problem when people like me or Ray get lazy and then you don't do a water change or you don't clean a canister or whatever. And then all of a sudden stuff builds up that you can't see, right? But it's not something someone that wants to keep seahorses should be afraid of. It's something that you should be aware of and keep up on your maintenance. I would also say that anytime I've ever had any problem with a seahorse, there's signs, right? So, Sofie, this is your first time with seahorses, and they're very happy. And I can tell the female's like not really there yet, but I mean they're getting there, and they're healthy, good seahorses, right? So as you get to know them, as you keep them, as they have babies and you keep more, it's almost like having kids, right?
You learn as you go. You learn from them.
And you learn something wrong. They will tell you when something's wrong. All of a sudden, your male, if there was a problem with your tank, if the organics were building up and he was feeling kind of, oh, you know, I don't like this, he's going to stop coming up and dancing for you. He's going to stop eating. He's going to stop whatever. And then, or, you know, like he'll be dark, really dark all the time. And I hate saying that because I don't want anybody to be scared if their seahorse turns dark, because they do. They do just because they want to. They do because they're next to something black. They do for whatever reason. But if your seahorse starts becoming seclusive and black all the time, then it's maybe time to come back and say, what's going on? But in the meantime, you're doing everything right. Just keep up your feeding habits, keep up your cleaning habits, and cover that heater. And then we're going to keep updating with you, you know, having you come back and tell us how they're doing. But it's not hard to keep seahorses. It's just following the rules. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a lazy person. So as Ray said, don't follow me if you want to breed seahorses, because when I did breed seahorses in the past, I was like, my tanks were meticulous. I was on it. Now I'm like, you know, tomorrow's good. And he's right. He's absolutely right, because I'm not doing what I need to do to get my seahorses beefed up, you know, providing them nutrient and providing them clean water so that they'll have babies. They're like, I ain't giving you babies, Kelly, because you're not taking care of my tank. All right, I'm rambling.
No, mine were the opposite. My ones that had babies, it was before I had a sump. It was when I had the reef style rock in there, and you know, people would say, "Oh, your tank's so beautiful," that I had the juveniles in, and you know, and it was beautiful because it was sterile. And I used to joke, I said, well, their parents live in a swamp.
Right.
Because they pretty much did. I couldn't keep up with that tank. And then that's why I switched it all around to all artificial.
And that's what's so cool that Sofie is willing to join us, is because she's so young. And Sofie, by the way, you're taking over this channel, you know, eventually. But in the meantime, we can see, you know, as a year comes up and she's like, okay, now I've had these babies and now the tank is, you know, like maybe nuisance algae. You're back to your original question. I was saying what would happen with the seahorse, to let you know that organics were building up. I will also add, if anyone says I'm not right, I apologize, I disagree. If you start seeing nuisance algae build up, because you have macros in your tank, you have a canister, I always recommend, you know, K1 media, sump, skimmer, all that stuff. But if what you're doing is working, it's working. But if you then start seeing, in my case, on my first tank, I didn't have a sump, I didn't have any of that stuff. I had all hang on the back, and everything was fine. And I had 4 seahorses, tier 2. And so it happened to me quicker. Within about 6 months, I started seeing nuisance algae, even though I had macros. And my macros were beautiful. The tank was beautiful. But then it started getting like the bubble algae on it, and the dinos, and all that started happening. And what told me, okay, I'm not doing enough for whatever reason to compensate for their waste for my feeding. So I do disagree that nuisance algae isn't a sign. I think it is. So if you see a little bit of nuisance algae, that's normal. You know, that's just life. But and it does depend on your lighting, absolutely. But if you see it growing better than your macros, I just feel like that's a sign. I see Ray typing. What are you guys talking about behind my back? We're still
he
live.
wants you to post that link that he put in our chat.
It's just that there might be somebody that's interested in the read, because it's not just seahorses. It's not talking about seahorses specifically. But the problem that it's explaining in there is the problem that we have with our Seahorse tanks, and it's the biggest problem we have.
Okay. All right. I just posted it, and I'll try to put it in the comment section. Yeah, Chris is amazing for, giving us that information. But anyways, again, just to Sofie, I think you're doing amazing. I think you will want to upgrade eventually, but for what you're doing now is amazing. Cover the heater, keep feeding the way you're feeding. Make sure you clean up every time that you do feed and they don't eat it all. You explained perfectly how new seahorses don't eat it first, and then they do. And it's like, oh, okay, they're fine. And just if you start getting nuisance algae, you can, of course, contact me on the side, or you can come back every week, as we hope you will do, and, talk with us and update us and just, see how it goes. Because nuisance algae in itself isn't like an indicator you're doing something wrong, you're not doing enough. It could be lighting. But usually, in my experience, it means that organics are getting high.
Well, for me,
Go ahead.
I didn't have a problem with nuisance algae in Seahorse tanks, but I still had problems where infections and that would happen. Mostly it was bacterial. Only
Yes.
once I can remember a parasitic situation. So anything at all that shows up that isn't right, like if you get a bacterial infection or a parasitic infection, both of those are expansive pathogens that occur as the DO increases. And so even if you don't have nuisance algae, anything like that that's a visible problem,
Sure.
I will automatically at that point, if it happened in my tank, I'd know, okay, first thing I gotta do, put the affected ones in a hospital tank, but then do a major tank cleaning and water change on the main one, the display tank, and then my regular protocols. If I'm doing X number of gallons once a week or something, well, I'll up that X plus some more and hope that that is going to take care of it. Because with dissolved organics, you don't know. It's something that right now you might have that problem in your tank. I don't want to scare you, but it's possible you might have that problem. It's very slightly building up somewhat, and it might be a year before it gets to that point. So it's something you always be aware of it, always be looking.
Totally agree, Ray. But the only thing I hate is that we're here and we're talking to Sofie, and anybody new is watching this. And I would hate for anybody to be scared to keep seahorses, because guess what, guys? Dissolved organics is a problem in a freshwater tank, in a coral tank, in a reef tank, in any tank, right? Ray pointed out earlier that tanks have the same weird digestive system that makes them more impervious to, problems. Either way, I can't wait for Sofie to come back and keep telling us how her seahorses are doing well, because it's not a scary thing to keep seahorses. They're very easy to keep. You just have to follow the rules. As Ray said, and as I told you, Sofie, eventually if you start to see buildup or whatnot, then you may want to expand and etc. But you've already set up according to the rules. You have 2 seahorses in a 30-gallon tank. I mean, that's really good. I had 4 in a 29 when I started, right? So I'm just saying, don't be scared to keep seahorses. Sofie, don't be scared. I want you to keep coming back. If you ever do have problems, we'll help you fix them. And in the meantime, anybody out there, don't be scared, because seahorses are amazing. They're like puppies. I can't imagine my house without them. Like, even after my mom passed and I didn't have them for a minute, I had to get them back because they're so amazing. And I don't want anybody to be scared of keeping them. Everything that Ray says is true, but it doesn't have to be a scary thing. Just
It's just something to be aware of and know. They're sensitive to bacterial infections, so just prevent them from having it.
That's it. That's it.
It's just the
Either,
way you keep them.
And
either
someday
have,
somebody will come up with a kit that we can do in our homes for testing DO.
Yeah, someday we'll have that, I'm sure.
Who knows if Sofie keeps on at the rate she's going and keeps learning, by the time I kick off, she can be the Canadian connection.
Right. There you go. Sofie's going to be it. But in the meantime, I'm just saying, like, either you set up, like I saw your comments in, I'm going to put it up in a minute, but either you set up with tremendous filtration in a sump that compensates for laziness, or you're an active 14-year-old like Sofie, and you're willing to do the water changes and the feedings and etc. that they need on your own. You're either the filtration or you have to compensate with the filtration. That's the bottom line. They do need more filtration, but as long as you provide it, you're good. Right?
Yeah.
And as long as if you're going to have extra filtration, you still got to remember, if it sits in there for a few days, it's releasing DO. So you clean it out.
That's me and Holly had a conversation the other day. She said, I was like, how often do you, like take out and wash your sock? What was your answer, Holly?
Every day.
And what did I say?
Probably once a week.
Ah! No,
and it's just like, but change your socks every day.
I take it with 2 socks. Right? I'm not doing okay. Anyway, the more you do, the better.
Make sure it's a clean one you hang up at the chimney.
The more you do, the better you'll be. But Sofie, you're already on the right track because Ray advised you. You're feeding 4 times a day. Just make sure you're cleaning up that food because that's what adds to those organics. But don't be scared, okay, I should say be scared of dissolved organics, but don't be scared of them. You know what I mean? Like, you can handle this. You can do it.
Just know what they are. Just prevent them from.
Yes.
We were succeeding even before we knew about DO.
And then I saw, if I go through the work, spend the money, and then kill one, I'm going to feel awful. I'm terrified because they're such special little creatures, and I will get attached really fast. Zen, all we want to know is the names because we know you're going to name them, just like me and Holly do.
Yeah.
We want to know the names, and they'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Tell Zen the reason is Canada posties are on strike.
What'd you say?
Oh,
she just posted there.
Look at her comment.
USPS.
They've
been on strike, I think, for over a week now.
I think I saw that somewhere too in the news.
I know nothing about it. Don't know. Don't have a comment.
So Canadian postal workers are on strike.
Gotcha. Well, I hope they get what they need and what they want. But again, Sofie, I feel like I've rambled too much and not spent enough time on you. I will just say, I think the tank looks amazing. I think your seahorses look very happy. I want you to come every week. I mean, like, I know we advertise this as your episode, but I want you to come every week and just pop in when you can and let us know how it's going. When you get fry, I'll be very mad at you. Sorry, but I will.
Her seahorse tank looks better than any seahorse tank I had.
I know. I know. And I love that you're using macros because people would disagree with me. Ray probably he used macros too, but I am like key about macros in a seahorse tank. I just think that even if you're not lazy, the dissolved organics and such, when you have macros in the tank, they're compensating for stuff that we don't see. I really feel that way. So I think you have set up really well. I think you're going to do well. I think you'll want a sump in a year, but we'll get there. And until then, I want you to share your progress and show people, hey, you know what? I wasn't ready to get a sump. I wanted to do it this way, and look at my seahorses doing well. And I love it. And I can't wait to see you succeed.
I will. I'll definitely come in when I can.
Awesome. Great job. The tank looks awesome.
Really
And it was
does.
fun seeing your seahorses.
And I want you to know, Kelly, that when I actually got them, when they first came home and they weren't eating, I was worried that they weren't eating. It was kind of, my mom kept telling me, she was like, no, it's fine that they're not eating.
Right.
Mhm.
I just wanted them to eat, but
Yeah.
I searched it up online and I read one of your posts about your seahorses not eating, and that helped me a little bit.
Oh, that makes me feel so good, because I want to make better videos, because I want to tell people, listen,
Yeah.
never had seahorses eat right away, right? And in my piebalds, I have a video where, look, they're not going to eat for me. I'm not, So that makes me feel great. I'm so glad that it helped you. I hope it helps other people. I need to do better about, sharing, and you need to continue it and share too, and tell people that's normal. Exactly. And good for your mom telling you that it was fine. And then they ate the next day and they're so happy. That's great. Holly, were you gonna say something? I keep. Yeah,
No, I was just reading Zen's comments.
What? Okay, I'm not gonna put over comments, but
Zen's just being mum.
what?
Zen's just being mum.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, I do have to work in the morning. I'm so sorry. You guys know I'd love to talk with you all night long, but I have to work in the morning, so I have to go. But happy Thanksgiving to all of you that don't work tomorrow. Lucky you. And do you have any big Thanksgiving plans, Sofie?
Our Thanksgiving was a while ago.
Yeah, Canadian
Oh, wow.
Thanksgiving is in October, isn't it? Or September?
That's right.
It's
I forget.
yeah. I have one of my friends that has dual citizenship, and so she does Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, and American Thanksgiving because her husband's American and she's Canadian, so they get two Thanksgivings.
Well, I'm thankful.
Just think of all the turkey soup.
Yeah.
I don't like turkey, but everybody gives me the carcasses so I can make my turkey soup.
Oh,
I love turkey soup. I'm thankful in general. I'm thankful for my seahorses. I'm thankful for Sofie sharing what's going on with her seahorses. Thankful for Ray and Holly constantly coming to Wine Wednesday and sharing.
Yes, very thankful for you guys. I wouldn't have been able to keep mine successfully without you guys.
I mean,
and I have a tip for everyone too. I should mention this because I decorate my tanks for Christmas. Everybody knows that I do the holidays. So I did that today. And then I was wondering to myself, what does PetSmart have this year for their tank decorations for Christmas? And they have another snow globe. Like everybody always asks me where I got the snow globe for the seahorses because they love it. It's like a little balls of snow in it that blow around. It's an air bubble thing and it lights up. Well, they're selling one again this year at PetSmart. So if you want one of those, I just saw one. They're like $20, but they're on sale right now. I think 20% off for Black Friday or whatever.
Nice.
I think you can get one for about 15, I want to say.
Well, there you go, guys. If you're setting up a tank, go get one. Like I did.
Well, Zen can watch it snow all the time until she gets her seahorses.
Yeah. And they do love it. My seahorses love the snow globe. They'll sit next to it and watch.
Zen wants a snow globe.
Yeah. Get it now. Everything's limited there, so you never know if they're going to sell it again.
when I'm live and I'm drinking wine, I don't give stuff enough attention. I mean, I'm rethinking what you said, Sophie, that you were worried about the seahorses eating and you went and looked up and somehow my comment made a difference. I just want to say again, that means the world to me.
Mhm.
Like, that means so much to me. I'm thankful for that, because that's the whole reason we do this, is to help people, keep seahorses properly and make sure that they do well and you do well and everything else. And so that means the world to me. I'm gonna message you on the side because I want to know where you saw that comment. But
I don't know if I can find it anymore, but I'll
You're just searching around, probably.
yeah. But for those of you that are celebrating tomorrow, happy Thanksgiving. For those of you that already celebrated, happy late Thanksgiving and happy holidays. How about we just say that? Again, Zen, we're lining you up. You and Sophie are both going to join us to do the new person question answer, kind of how do I set up a seahorse tank thing, even though Sophie already has seahorses now. But we're going to still do it. But we're waiting on you, Zen. It's all your fault, Zen.
She doesn't know it yet, but she's getting seahorses for Christmas.
Oh,
Better set up your tanks.
Complete with snow gold.
Yeah, the snow globe.
Santa said you're getting seahorses. Okay, no, all right, I'm gonna stop now. But you guys, love y'all. Happy holidays. We will see you next week, and we'll go from there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Happy holidays. Have a good night. We'll see you next week, and we will advertise some more topics. If you have anything you want us to talk about, let us know. But for tonight, happy Wine Wednesday. Let's do a cheers. Sophie,
Good night,
thank you
all.
so much for joining us.
Thank
Cheers.
And Sophie, if you don't hear from me, get in touch and ask me about that gravelback.
you. Okay.
I just have to find it. It's amongst all the junk.
I mean, I have this one that I've been using.
And
Oh,
I love
okay.
it. We're
Yeah,
gonna talk
that works
about
fine.
Hang on. We're gonna talk about this in 2 seconds after we end the